All right, so we are back again with our Fiction 101 series. And we had a lot of staff members this month, February 2021, raise their hand to talk about romance. Apparently we all have a lot of feelings and opinions about romance genre, which makes sense because romance is the biggest, most lucrative part of publishing. It's a 1.4 billion, the B billion dollar industry, primarily written by women, for women, featuring women, but not exclusively. I was surprised to find out that 18% of romance readers are men. So that's exciting. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about what works in the romance world genre-wise, and what we like, what our patrons like, and what we're looking forward to. So there's two things that make something officially a romance novel, right? It has to have a central love story. And Ruth, what else do we have to have in a romance book?
Happy ending.
A happy ending, right? A happily ever after, or as we see in more and more contemporary writings, sometimes even just a happy for now ending. Gone are the days where every romance novel has to end in a marriage and a baby. A lot of them end in therapy sessions now. It's really interesting. So there's a lot of subgenres, and we all kind of like slightly different things. I mean, in the romance world, when you can have the central story be about the romance or the love interest and the happy ending, they can still be historical fiction. They can still be have a mystery element to it, paranormal, contemporary, spiritual, Amish, erotic, YA. There's a lot of subgenres out there. So let's talk about what we're reading right now. We kind of, in our staff conversations, found that a lot of people who don't normally consider themselves romance readers have found themselves there recently. Probably because of the happy endings. But Ruth, what have you been reading?
Okay, I'm revisiting the Julia Quinn books, the Bridgerton's series, because of I haven't seen the TV show, but I read these like 20 years ago. And unfortunately, I got rid of all my books. I had the whole series in my attic. And so now I'm rereading that. So I've read The Duke and I, and I've read about 6 of them so far. So that's the last couple weeks I've been reading those.
Yeah,
so I like I started out reading historical romances, and now I'm more into contemporary romances. So, but I still read historical romances. I think I've read about most of all of Julia Quinn's books.
Yeah, that's where my allegiance lies mostly too, with historical ones. But Bridgerton, full on having a moment right now. The revival for the Netflix series, the entire series is available on Hoopla. So if you're looking to compare them, you can borrow. You can't borrow them all in 1 month because you can only borrow 6 a month from Hoopla, and there's 8 stories, 1 for each sibling. But
they do have one that has the happily ever afters after what happened to them. And this is my original copy. I did keep that one.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because those are like the epilogue stories about sort of the kids and what happens next, which we always
which is very good. And there's some really surprises in here too.
Anybody else reading the Bridgertons? Shelby, Charlotte's reading. Shelby, has it been a big request item?
I've seen like Regency kind of make a resurgence, but like as far as Bridgerton, exactly not really.
Shelby, you're pretty quiet. You might need to turn your volume up on your mic a little bit. If you can. If you can do that, or just yell at us, yell really loud about how excited you are about romance novels. Charlotte, what are you reading right now?
Yeah, I got into the Bridgerton series after hearing the big hoopla about it, the Netflix show. So I've been reading them online, and then Ruth was kind enough to lend me one of her copies of one that I haven't read yet. So thank you, Ruth, for
You're
feeding my
welcome.
New Bridgerton addiction. And I've also been reading, I love YA as a genre. So I've
Mhm.
been reading a lot of YA kind of romance, like the To All the Boys series, especially with the third movie coming out in Netflix. I've been rereading those, and I picked up Love Boat Taipei in the summer, and it was a really like light YA romance read, and it has a cool West Virginia connection. The author was actually born here, so
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're definitely gonna get more of the like happy for now type endings than
yeah, which I think I don't know I need in these wild times. So that's what I've been up to.
yeah. I mean they are formulaic, like all genre books are, but that's not a bad thing, right? Like it's the same thing with kids when they read series and sometimes we're like, really another, like they just devour them, but they're comforting and they're enjoyable and they're not taxing on our already overtaxed brains. Or even our overtaxed emotions, honestly, like because you know that it's going to resolve and you're not going to just be left like wondering, or just good wondering, I guess, rather than bad. Crystal, what are you reading?
So I'm reading a series by Talia Hibbert. The first one in the series is Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
Those are fantastic.
They're
funny.
They're so funny. And what I love about them is that the main character, I'm not typically a romance reader, but yeah, like the happy ending is really what got me picking up these novels. I'm more of a Stephen King true crime is usually my jam, but I picked these up, and when I thought of romance novels, I thought of like, the ones with Fabio on the cover and
The bodice rippers.
yes, these beautiful people, and the main character is just super relatable. She's a computer geek. She's somewhat lived a sheltered life, and she makes this list. She decides she's not living her life to the fullest. Number one on her list is she's going to move out on her own into her own apartment. She's lived with her family up until this time, and she moves into her new place and meets the maintenance guy. Is this really handsome, drives a motorcycle, and he helps her accomplish the other 6 items on her list, and I just really loved it.
They go camping, right? Isn't that one of her?
They go camping.
Yeah.
I think eating s'mores was one of the things on our list. But also, it is a series. It follows Chloe is the oldest sister. The second book follows the middle sister, Danny Brown, and the latest one's coming out in March follows the youngest sister, Eve Brown. So they're super funny, really witty.
I think they're a great example of contemporary romance where it's very upfront about a personal journey too, and that journey is not necessarily tied to another person, but how they need each other, give each other enough space to sort of develop and get to the point where they can be happy together, which I think is a big change in what the journey's always been there in romance novels, but I think in the last 10 years, that the way that gets presented has changed a lot. And really get the covers away from these bodice rippers, because the stories are so much more of personal journey than that thinks. And I think that's where you've got your disconnect, where the stories are written by women and they're written for women, but perhaps maybe the publishers and the marketing is done by men.
Right.
That's
But
a long
they're
time ago
yeah,
too.
the Brown sisters, I read those earlier this year too. They were really funny. I enjoyed them a lot as well. Shelby, you got anything on your list or big patron trends you want to mention?
I've been really into like fairy tale and myth retellings, and I don't know, stories where I'm probably gonna cry at some point in it a lot. But the ending's nice. I just started Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is not a myth retelling, but
No, it is such a good book. Yeah, you want to talk about personal journey, finding yourself, and being sure of who you are so that you can be in a relationship like that. Oh my gosh, I love that book. Also funny.
I've also seen like a weird resurgence of like ghost love stories lately with patrons, and I don't know how that works long term when you fall in love with a ghost, but
Worked in the movie Ghost.
Yeah, there's some very specific subgenres that we can get into there, when paranormal ones and urban fantasy and all kinds of stuff. I mean, and then of course you've got like the sequential kind of Harlequin ones where they're, I mean, in the old versions of them, they were always sort of like by profession. You had like the doctor love stories or the teacher love stories. There's a whole world of librarian love stories out there too, if anybody wants to go down that road. And some new YA ones too, like that are centered around books that look interesting. I haven't gotten to yet, but so I've been reading the Bridgertons too, and getting into a lot of Alyssa Cole. She has what's that series called? It's a Civil War based one, which is not an era that I usually read a lot about historical fiction wise, even though I read a lot of historical fiction, as centered around, well, the first two are about free Black women who work as spies during the Civil War. So they're really interesting and definitely a different representation than you usually see in a lot of historical fiction, but well written, fast paced. Stories gotta move quick for me or I fall asleep fast. And I read the Talia Hibbert ones this year too, and Dangerous Alliance. I just finished that, which is a Jane Austen inspired romance, kind of light and fun and quick. But so what are we looking forward to? Ruth, what's coming up next that you can't wait to read?
Well, luckily my favorite author is having a new book out tomorrow, which is Monica Murphy. And she has a series called My 1 Week Girlfriend. It started out with a couple in that. And now she's on to their kids. So the new one is called Fighting for You. And it's about one of their kids' friends. And he's kind of the bad guy in the story, the last few. So he's going to be redeemed by, of course, his girlfriend. And there's an unexpected pregnancy in this. So there's some tension there, so I'm anxious to read that and see how she handles that. She's really good at writing contemporary novels, Monica Murphy. Then one in March, Stephanie Lawrence, she writes historical fiction, and her new book is The Games Lovers Play. It's a little more traditional romance with a historical twist to that, and it's a series that she's done a long time. So those are my two books that I can't wait to come out.
Great. We get new books in every Tuesday, so there's always something coming out. Charlotte, what's on your list for late winter, early spring?
Yeah, I'm excited for, there's a debut novel rather, by Morgan Rogers called Honey Girl that I've seen has gotten good press. And so the protagonist goes to Vegas to celebrate getting her PhD and wakes up married to a mystery woman. And I guess Jason Sue. So I'm looking forward to that one. And there's another one that's not coming out until the spring. It's called Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sotanto. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it's supposed to be like Crazy Rich Asians meets Weekend at Bernie's.
I read that review too. And
Yeah.
huh.
And Netflix has already picked up the rights to it. So that's probably a good sign. So
Nice.
coming out in April. So got a little
That
bit
sounds great.
yeah.
Shelby, what are you looking forward to?
I don't have a specific book, but I feel like Hades and Persephone retellings are gonna have a resurgence because Netflix just picked up a really good web comic to make a TV series out of. So I'm fingers crossing that I'm gonna see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. There's been a lot of myth retelling and fairy tale retelling stuff, which I'm on board for as well. I enjoy those. So, Crystal, anything else on your list besides the next Brown sister?
I'm looking forward to reading the new Kristen Hanna. I believe it just came out last week. A lot of her novels have a lot of romance elements in them as well. It's called The Four Winds, and it's set during the like Great Dust Bowl, Great Depression era in Texas. So looking forward to that one.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I've never read a Kristen Hanna book, actually. Maybe I should put that.
That on hold, put it on hold for us. I think that's going to be a popular book here, at the library.
I think we have digital copies as well too. Ellen told me the other day that she started reading Fairy Godmothers Inc., which looked really funny too. And so that's definitely on my list of things to look forward to. One that's got romantic themes, but not necessarily a fully traditional romance is the next in the Speedwell series by Deanna Rayburn, which is sort of a historical mystery and romance. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to try some of Alyssa Cole's other series too, because I guess after she wrote the Civil War ones, she wanted to just put more princesses into the world and do happy things. So she has a princess series too that is based on like a fictional African kingdom. So that would be pretty different than other things that I've read. And I really like her writing, and she's a big force just in the romance writing world. As an author, I like following her on Twitter because she has interesting things to say. So that'll be fun. And we lost Ruth, which I'm surprised we made it this far without losing anybody. So, but we'll kind of wrap things up. So we're going to keep going with these genre things. I think next month is mysteries. And if you've got more comments or want to share titles, put them in the comments on Facebook, and we can go do a little back and forth. If you're looking for your next great read and you're not sure what direction to go in, get a hold of Shelby. She is our readers advisory queen at this point, and she will help match you up with either something that is in your world that you're happy, just looking for more to read deeper in a certain genre, or if you're ready for a change. Like, I do feel a little burnout on romance at the moment. I've spent a while there, so I am gonna push myself to try and read a mystery for our next month, which I haven't done in a long time. But anybody else have any other final thoughts or comments? Otherwise, we'll wish everybody some happy reading and a happy ending. And then we'll read far more disturbing things next month. Thanks for joining us for Morgantown Public Library Systems Fiction 101. This is the Romance Genre Edition, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.